There wasn't a headline, a leak, or even a scandal, but something felt off. Anne Hathaway had been everywhere, Canned, GQ, and T-Style, promoting Mother Mary, a slow burn, emotionally raw masterpiece that Hollywood craves during Oscar season, a character study of grief and self-reclamation helmed by an award-winning female director. Whispers called Anne's performance her best yet, a redemption arc after years of being misunderstood. Yet just 2 weeks into her campaign, momentum stalled. Features were cancelled, and a Vogue cover already shot was shelved indefinitely. Then, a month before nominations, Blake Lively's name suddenly entered conversations for the same category. It didn't make sense. She wasn't in a prestige film and hadn't had a theatrical release in 18 months, but her name began appearing on panels, in press rooms, and even in a quote from The Hollywood Reporter, noting buzz around her recent pivot into grounded, complex roles. And recognized the reference immediately. It was about Mother Mary. The catch? Blake wasn't in the film anymore, and she didn't say a word, though for weeks before the article ran, she had still been attached. She hadn't walked away quietly. Every deleted tweet, every fake statement, every PR cover-up takes hours to piece together. Back in early 2024, Mother Mary looked very different. Anne Hathaway and Blake Lively were announced to share the screen in a two-woman psychological drama about estranged sisters confronting family trauma, meant to be a prestige comeback for both. But 6 weeks into pre-production, tension arose. Anne immersed herself in the character, attending table reads, researching trauma, even rewriting parts of the script with the director. Blake, on the other hand, showed up once, sent her assistant for another meeting, and then stopped responding to group messages entirely. According to an anonymous crew member, Blake disliked the narrative structure, demanding more voiceover, more glamour, and more moments where her character triumphed, essentially, a story that centered on her. The script, Anne realized, wasn't imbalanced creatively. It simply wasn't about Blake, and when she finally exited the project citing scheduling conflicts, she left just enough of an opening for her presence and influence to linger, a quiet but calculated move that would soon ripple across the campaign. An anonymous crew member revealed that Blake Lively disliked the narrative structure of Mother Mary, demanding more voiceover, glamour, and scenes where her character triumphed. She claimed the script was imbalanced, though what she truly meant was it wasn't centered on her. The night before a critical rewrite session, Anne Hathaway received a terse text from the director, a screenshot of Blake stating, "Honestly, I'm not doing another project where I'm the second name. Either we rework the angle, or I'm out." Within 48 hours, Blake exited the project citing scheduling conflicts, but she never deleted her messages. She forwarded them to Ryan Reynolds, and that was when things started shifting off-camera. Blake's departure wasn't a door slammed. It was a door left slightly ajar, ensuring that when the campaign faltered, public perception would know whom to blame. A month later, Mother Mary's new poster featured only Anne, with soft lighting, bare shoulders, and no co-star. Observant eyes would notice that this wasn't the original plan. Prior to Blake's exit, a dual-lead photo shoot had already taken place. 2 women posed in cold stares, matching costumes, perfect symmetry, and a press draft approved by the studio. Those images never saw the light of day. Then a headline quietly appeared, and Hathaway, Carrie's mother, Mary, alone after Lively's exit. And didn't comment, but an anonymous editor tweeted that Blake demanded a private retouching session. When Anne's photos tested higher, the entire set was pulled. Of 12 selects delivered, Blake rejected 9, leaving Anne's shots as the highest scoring, yet everything vanished. Soon a whisper campaign began. A blind item suggested and had been difficult on set, despite the shoot lasting only 1 day with no script or scenes, just cameras. The implication persisted. Media coverage of Mother Mary subtly shifted and appeared left behind rather than carrying the film. This wasn't a simple creative reshuffle, it was a calculated narrative pivot, portraying Anne as the last woman standing when in truth, she was the only one fully present. And Hathaway plays the game until the game tries to play her. 1 month before Mother Mary's marketing campaign kicked off, and quietly agreed to co-chair a televised charity gala, a strategic, statement-making event where placement mattered more than the dress. Blake was scheduled to attend as well, set to walk separately but sit together, a stage display of unity orchestrated by their shared PR liaison to generate buzz. What actually happened? And showed up alone. Blake withdrew an hour before call time, citing a family emergency. Yet cameras caught an odd detail. Blake's stylist was on site in full glam gear. While and conducted interviews, the absence was conspicuous, marking another subtle but deliberate shift in control and narrative, signaling that the campaign was no longer just about the film, it was about managing who held the spotlight. During and Hathaway's interviews, Blake's stylist showed up in full glam, yet no one spoke about it, until 2 days later, an unlisted YouTube clip surfaced with backstage audio. Nothing dramatic, just a mic left unmuted. A voice, likely a junior stylist, muttered that Blake wasn't going to appear, adding, "If and speaks first, she's not stepping on that carpet." And never publicly responded, but fans noticed inconsistencies. Photo agencies still tagged Blake as scheduled, yet no official explanation for her absence emerged. Multiple sources confirmed that seating had been arranged for both actresses, making Blake's no-show conspicuous. Online theories circulated but failed to trend, overshadowed by a gossip account posting a pap shot of Blake in New York that same night, smiling and shopping with Ryan Reynolds, captioned, "Emergency or escape plan." The timing suggested strategy rather than coincidence. Blake wasn't just skipping an event. She was avoiding sharing the spotlight with a woman she couldn't outshine. By spring 2024, Mother Mary was entering its press tour phase. Anne's performance quietly began generating Oscar buzz, not through flashy appearances, but through controlled, devastatingly subtle displays of craft, her most compelling work since Les Miserables. It became clear that while Blake manipulated visibility and maintained a steady, understated command over her narrative, signaling that true impact doesn't always require loud declarations. It can thrive in poise, precision, and quiet consistency. The studio had scheduled a prime Sunday night interview for Anne Hathaway on a legacy network, think Oprah style, a full sit-down, no-fluff showcase of her depth. But 5 days before airing, everything changed. The network emailed Anne's team. The segment was indefinitely rescheduled due to programming changes, with no apology or reshoot date. And only realized the full impact when she saw what filled her slot. Blake Lively in a glossy profile piece titled "The Woman Who Can Do It All," Mother, Mogul, Muse. Shot at the same studio, with the same crew, on the same set, Blake's segment made no public reference to and, yet whispers began circulating among the crew. A lighting assistant even posted a now-deleted comment under a behind-the-scenes reel. Wild how we cleared a full schedule for another actress, and then this happened, which garnered 1,200 likes before vanishing, but not before it was screenshotted. The assistant added, "We literally pre-lit that interview for Anne. They changed the guest that morning. Don't tell me this wasn't planned." Blake never mentioned Anne but her line, "In this business, you have to protect your light. No one else is going to make sure you're seen," carried unmistakable subtext. People clapped, but those who understood the context knew this wasn't PR, it was war. By April, Mother Mary was heading into its first major public event, a vanity cover shoot meant to anchor the awards season campaign. And was confirmed. The theme, the divine and the dangerous, a dual-spread layout celebrating Hollywood's evolving queens, old guard and new power. She was told she'd be paired with another A-lister, perhaps Florence Pugh or Jessica Chastain, someone who could match her tone and hold her own. But 1 week before the shoot, during the final wardrobe fitting, her stylist returned from a call pale, handing Anne a text from the creative director. Apologies for the confusion. The layout had shifted. Blake would now front solo, and section might be revisited for a future concept. No explanation, no apology, no confirmation it would ever happen. Anne stared at the screen. The custom Dior gown prepped for her was never worn. Days later, Blake uploaded a behind-the-scenes story from a strikingly similar shoot, wearing a nearly identical Dior piece. What was meant to showcase Anne's artistry was quietly co-opted, leaving her moment, carefully built and strategically staged, erased and redirected, a subtle but unmistakable power play in the high-stakes game of Hollywood visibility. Anne's fans immediately noticed the similarity in dresses. One stylist account reposted the comparison with a caption, "We're how a dress that was meant for someone else ends up in someone else's promo." Almost like there's a pattern. That comment got buried until a former magazine assistant slid a DM to a gossip account. The assistant didn't name names but implied, "Let's just say one actress got uninvited and the other showed up with a husband who funds half the page count in that magazine." Viewers understood the implication. Ryan's agency had bought a full-page ad for Blake's feature, taking a slot and had been promised weeks earlier, relegating her to digital. And remained silent publicly but reposted a quiet photo to her Instagram, holding that same Dior gown on a hanger, looking at it in the mirror. No caption, no tag. As one anonymous fan noted via Anne's stylist account, "Not everything made to fit you ends up being worn." This was never just about fashion. It was a deliberate act of erasure, subtle, surgical, and fully funded. And it wouldn't be the last time Blake appropriated something meant for Anne. Meanwhile, Anne's team was preparing for a small, private screening of Mother Mary, a studio tradition to generate early Oscar buzz before festival season. It wasn't a red carpet event, but an intimate gathering of agents, critics, producers, and a few hand-picked journalists. Anne had cleared her schedule and confirmed all the details twice with her team, ready to showcase her performance. Yet on the morning of the event, her assistant received a call from the studio's vice president of publicity, signaling another unexpected shift, one that would once again leave Anne sidelined in favor of strategic positioning and behind-the-scenes maneuvers designed to control the narrative. And Hathaway was blindsided when the studio's VP of publicity called that morning with a sudden change. The private Mother Mary screening was going on, but she didn't need to attend. Instead, the focus would be on distribution partners, an odd decision, since distribution executives don't typically walk press screeners. Later that night, Anne received a ping from her stylist linking to a low-res photo posted by an industry intern. In the background of the screening room, Blake Lively was smiling and chatting with Ryan, sitting squarely in Anne's reserved seat. That same evening, Blake posted a blurry boomerang to her Instagram story with the caption, "Supporting stories that matter, even if I'm not in them." No tags, no movie name, yet everyone in the industry immediately understood the subtext. Behind the scenes, Ryan had brokered a backdoor appearance for Blake, claiming she was attending as a studio liaison thanks to his producer credit on a separate Netflix title. She didn't just show up. She took in seat, claimed her photo op, and essentially hijacked the narrative. And Hathaway was the lead of Mother Mary, yet Blake managed to insert herself as the focal point. Whispers began circulating. A journalist from IndieCurrent released a blind item, noting that one A-lister had quietly been uninvited from her own early screener, replaced by a strategic presence with agency ties. And didn't respond publicly, but she subtly posted a throwback story, her sitting alone in a red theater chair, face turned away from the camera, with a single word typed across the screen, "Unbooked." Reposted by Indie Film Insider, it captured the moment she lost more than a photo op. She lost control of the story. Blake's strategy was clear. Sometimes you don't need to declare yourself the star. You just show up in her seat. Less than a week after the screening fiasco, Anne's team received confirmation that Elle magazine was moving forward with a feature interview and a solo cover for the July issue, a prestige placement meant to position her as an Oscar frontrunner. The shoot had already been completed weeks earlier, and the interview had gone beautifully, with Anne approving the final edits. Yet the narrative of the campaign had already been shifted, signaling just how strategic and calculated the behind-the-scenes maneuvers around Blake Lively's presence had become, and the lengths to which she and her team went to redirect attention, redefine positioning, and control the optics, all while Anne's carefully built momentum quietly hung in the balance. And Hathaway had approved the final edits for her Elle magazine cover, headlined, "And Hathaway on Silence, Survival, and the Story's Finally Ready to Tell," a perfect narrative for her carefully staged comeback. But on April 22nd, the cover disappeared, literally. The magazine's homepage updated, replacing and with Blake Lively, using the same backdrop, photographer, stylist, and issue date. Anne's publicist called for answers. only to be told that editorial had made a last-minute shift to align with audience metrics. But insiders revealed it wasn't metrics at play, it was Blake's team. A junior editorial assistant who had been following and anonymously shared a screenshot of an internal Slack conversation between the feature's editor and marketing director, showing that Lively's camp had offered a partnership buyout if Anne's feature was removed, claiming Blake had a legacy reveal poised to drive higher engagement. The blurry, cropped image included one line, crystal clear, replace and use the green coat frame, push the resilience angle. That Friday, Blake's quote package dropped, previewing her upcoming interview where she discussed letting go of competition, trusting timing, and reclaiming her voice as a woman in film. Worded perfectly, too perfectly, one pull quote hit dangerously close. Some people tell their stories to heal, others tell them to win. The implication was unmistakable. Blake had hijacked Anne's feature and reframed it as her own triumph. Anne didn't simply lose a cover. She lost the chance to frame her own comeback. But while Blake rebranded herself as Hollywood's soft-spoken survivor and quietly pulled strings behind the scenes, she didn't need to tweet or publicly call it out. Someone else was already working in her favor. A mid-level, connected producer who had been on the Mother Mary set the entire time appeared on a niche industry podcast, Behind the Slate, largely followed by assistants, indie filmmakers, and film students. That episode unexpectedly exploded. Without naming Blake, the producer described a recent project where a legacy actress was pushed out of her own campaign by a rival whose team had more money than merit, adding pointedly that the studio prioritized Instagram numbers over Oscar-caliber performances. The narrative was clear and had been sidelined, but the truth was beginning to surface. The silence that followed amplified her story, letting the industry quietly acknowledge what had happened while Anne's comeback quietly regained momentum, proving that even when headlines vanish, influence and strategy can never be fully erased. One actress showed up every day on set, fully committed, while the other merely appeared at Vanity Fair. The podcast didn't trend on Twitter, but an exact account that reposts insider film leaks clipped the audio, added the hashtag #WeKnowWho, and wrote, Blake hijacked Mother Mary and Ryan backed the campaign that cut and out. No one wants to say it, but we see it. Anne's name never trended, yet something unusual happened that day. The Mother Mary promotional account stopped posting altogether. No clips, no countdowns, just silence. For once, Anne didn't have to speak. Someone inside the industry was finally voicing the truth. And when that happened, the promotional machine paused. The Oscars came and went, and Hathaway wasn't nominated, and neither was Mother Mary. The buzz had vanished, magazine covers had moved on, and Blake Lively posted a boomerang of herself sipping champagne in Paris with the caption, "The best stories are the ones no one saw coming." But someone did see it coming, and someone wasn't finished yet. On May 4th, a quiet casting announcement dropped on Deadline, no fanfare, no interviews, revealing a new project, an untitled character study financed by Apple, written and directed by Greta Gerwig. And the lead? Anne Hathaway. But it wasn't just the casting that turned heads. The logline read like a direct response to the previous campaign. A former A-lister stages a quiet, chaotic comeback after a public identity erasure orchestrated by a rival. Tagline: She never left. They just covered her tracks. In soft pastels and layered metaphors, it was Anne's loudest statement yet, made without a single public word, proving that while headlines may vanish, truth and persistence have a way of echoing. The moment that hit hardest wasn't the casting itself. It was the logline, a former A-lister staging a quiet, chaotic comeback after a public identity erasure orchestrated by a rival. Tagline: Asterisk, she never left. They just covered her tracks. Asterisk, it wasn't subtle. It was war-painted in soft pastels and layered metaphors, Anne's loudest statement, yet without uttering a single word. Then a clip resurfaced, a 2016 YouTube panel with And on a Couch, speaking about what fame does to women. She said, "They don't cancel you with headlines. They cancel you with silence, with red carpets you're not invited to, with stories that never get told." 8 years online and suddenly viral, the clip resonated like a warning and a declaration. Blake didn't post. Ryan didn't post. But that night, Emma Stone shared a simple screenshot of the Greta Gerwig project announcement, underlining Anne's name and adding a single fire emoji. Anne didn't win the Oscar. She didn't trend. She didn't publicly clap back. But she outlasted the noise. Silence may erase headlines, but truth echoes. And now, Anne Hathaway holds the pen. You cannot bury a woman who already survived the funeral.